Hey, this is Chris from Rekkid Talk. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take on the 20 album chain challenge. Apparently this was started by Dylan at Noble Records. I saw it being done by Garage Geek. I saw it being done by Costas at Lego Paiti. And I'm going to try it. Here's sort of the ground rules I'm setting for myself. So when we're going from album to album in the chain, I'm going to use it based on musicians only. So I'm not going to chain based on songwriter, based on being a producer or engineer or some other sort of technical thing. Basically, you had to sing or play an instrument on the albums to go from chain to chain. Also, because I'm a big Juliana Hatfield fan, as regular viewers know, I'm going to start and end with the Juliana Hatfield 3 in this. And I'm going to warn you right now, my list is very white, very American, a lot of CDs involved, and even one tape cassette. Many compilations are involved. It's very alternative rock. It's mostly going to be late 80s and 90s fare. There is going to be a side trip into the late 70s and early 80s along the way. So let's get into it. Album number 1 is going to be Juliana Hatfield 3, Become What You Are. 30th anniversary of this album here in 2023. So, of course, we got Juliana Hatfield, but we're going to use Dean Fisher, the bass player, for the next link in our chain. And so the next album number 2, is going to be Tanya Donelly Swan Song Series, which was a compilation of a series of EPs from the 2010s. So Dean Fisher from the Juliana Hatfield 3 played bass, guitar, keyboards, drums, percussion, multi-instrumental here, along with, of course, Tanya Donelly, and they happen to be husband and wife. And then album number 3 is going to be the Throwing Muses, the real Ramona, so from 1991. So, of course, you've got Tanya Donelly on here and Kristin Hersh, the two main people in the band, especially Kristin. Tanya and Kristin were stepsisters. And that brings us, we'll use Kristin to take us to album number 4. This is the Cinnamon Girl, Women Artists Cover Neil Young for Charity Tribute that American Laundromat did several years ago. I think this was originally released in 2008. So Kristin Hersh performed the song Like a Hurricane. Even though I'm not using Tanya Donelly for this chain, she did Heart of Gold, which I think was the best song on this comp. But then the next step of my chain is going to be John Doe. I know he's a guy, not a woman, and this was a female-based comp, but John Doe, along with Jill Sabuel, did Down by a River, but we're going to use John Doe, most known for being in the band X, to chain us to album number 5. Album number 5 is going to be this Rayvon Buddy Holly tribute. And so you can see John Doe, second line from the bottom. So he performed the song Peggy Sue Got Married. And we are going to then chain with Patti Smith, who did Words of Love. This comp was from 2011. And so we are going to use a single in this. Our 6th record is going to be this 45 of Because the Night by the Patti Smith Group back in, I believe, 1976. No, 1978 is the date on here. Okay, 1978. So, of course, we have Patti Smith, and then we also have playing drums in her band, J.D. Daugherty, who's going to be our chain to record number 7. So record number 7 is going to be the Nurds by the Roches from 1980. So JD played drums on this album. I'm not actually linking with one of the Roche sisters. I'm linking with Fred Smith, who played bass on this album. Fred Smith takes us to album number 8 in the chain, Television, Marquee Moon. So you've got Fred Smith playing bass, and you have Richard Lloyd as one of our guitar players. Obviously, Tom Verlaine was very important as well in Television, but we're going to use Richard Lloyd to link us to our next album. Our next album, album number 9, is going to be Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend. So Richard Lloyd appeared playing the lead guitar on 3 of the tracks. And of course, this album mainly features the singer-songwriter power pop extraordinaire from Matthew Sweet. And so we will use Matthew Sweet to link us to our next album. Album number 10 is another American Laundromat compilation special. This was a tribute to the Repo Man soundtrack, not the original Repo Man soundtrack. And so Matthew Sweet did a cover of Hombre Secreto, Secret Agent Man, that was performed by The Plugs on the original soundtrack. And then who we're going to use for the next step of the chain is going to be Mike Watt and the Second Men, who did Let's Have a War, which was originally performed by Fear. But we're using Mike Watt to get us the next step. Album number 11, which I always knew was going to be part of this, is Mike Watt, Ball-Hog or Tugboat. So this was the 1995 Mike Watt solo album, and sort of the gimmick here is that you can't even read all that writing, but he had a plethora of guest stars on various records, pretty much a veritable who's who of the alternative rock world in 1995. So this gave me lots of possibilities. I ended up going track number 7 called Tough Gnarl, featured several of the members of Sonic Youth, Lee Ronaldo, Steve Shelley, but I'm going to use Thurston Moore as my link to the next record in the chain. Record number 12 is going to be Ciccone Youth, the Whitey album. Now, of course, Mike Watt was actually part of this, along with Sonic Youth. But who also played a part on this album playing guitar was Jay Mascis. And so we're going to use Jay Mascis to link us to album 13. This is going to be yet another compilation. This is the This Is Fort Apache comp. So this was a comp featuring music by a lot of artists, particularly Boston-based, but not solely, who had worked at the Fort Apache studios. So, of course, Dinosaur Jr., track number 2, Not You Again. Of course, Jay Mascis is on that track. And then we are going to link to the Lemonheads, who track number 4, the song Stove. And, of course, the main member of the Lemonheads is Evan Dando, and record number 14 in the chain is going to be the Lemonheads' self-titled album from 2006. Now, this was the album where Evan had basically the rhythm section from the Descendants, so Carl Alvarez and Bill Stevenson, but I'm not using them for the chain. Appearing on one track on this album is Gibby Haynes, of course, from the Butthole Surfers. And that's going to link us to record number 15, yet another strange comp. Saturday Morning Cartoons Greatest Hits. And so what this was another mid-90s thing where they had sort of alternative rock people of the day do covers of songs from mostly 70s cartoons that a lot of these people would have grown up with. And so the Butthole Surfers did the theme to Underdog, and I'm going to chain them with the Violent Femmes, who did Eep Op Ork Ah Ah Means I Love You, which is actually from the Jetsons. And the specific member of the Violent Femmes I'm using for this is going to be maybe not the expected choice. I'm going to use their drummer at the time, Victor Lorenzo. And the next chain is going to be the most obscure one of all. Record number 6 is going to be the College Music Journal, CMJ New Music, monthly comp for their issue of October 1996. And so track number 17 on this was by Victor DeLorenzo, a song called Blind off a solo album he did. And then also appearing on this record, track number 5, Les Claypool and the Holy Mackerel with a song called Holy Mackerel. So this was a side project by Les Claypool, who is mainly known for being the bass player and leader of the band Primus. And so my very beat up version of Primus Sailing the Seas of Cheese from 1991. That's record number 17. And so the final track called Bastardos, which was kind of a remake of their Here Comes the Bastard song, had several guest musicians, including Mike Bordin, who was credited with the Two-Skinned Foreskin. Mike Bordin is the drummer for Faith No More. And so this brings us to album or cassette tape number 18, Virus 100, Alternative Tentacles. And so this was their 100th release, and it was a tribute to the Dead Kennedys. And so one of the tracks on this tape cassette was a cover of Let's Lynch the Landlord by Faith No More. So Mike Bordin and the other members of Faith No More. And appearing later on the record was a different cover of Let's Lynch the Landlord by L7. And the person from L7 that we are going to link with is the bass player Jennifer Finch. This takes us to album number 19, Jennifer Precious Finch. And so she had left L7 and started this more pop-based band that released a single album in 1999 called Other Star People, Diamonds in the Belly of the Dog. It's actually a pretty terrible album. So you've got Precious Jennifer Finch up there. And then right below her is Todd. And so that is the drummer. His name is Todd Phillips. Now, if Todd ever sees this, Todd's really, really going to wish I linked him with Bullet LaVolta rather than Other Star People. But sorry, Todd. But the reason why we're using Todd Phillips here is because Todd Phillips was also the drummer for the Juliana Hatfield Three. So this was their reunion album, Whatever My Love. And so you can see there's Todd over there and Juliana. And Dean's wearing his hat because between 1993 and 2015, he doesn't have the nice hair that he had in 1993. So there you go, 20 albums taking us to and from the Juliana Hatfield 3, kind of a tour around alternative rock.